this way, that way, and this way. Then you know what the framework is, sort of. Then you can begin marking, depending on what you want to be looking at the time you enter and exit. And in my case, as I said, it's the view of the mountains. But go ahead and place the two, some of your two particularly nice stones at the entrance. And then I use particularly nice stones as the last few as you go toward the center. And then in the very center, I put some very special, showing my life's work of collection of interesting rocks, in the middle. Some of them are pretty good size, and some not so much. The rock that I brought as one option to use as a center rock, but I'm not attached to that. If somebody has something nicer than that, it can be used in another way. But I haven't so far found the need to make every single rock exactly white and exactly certain shape and all that. What I have tried to do, because at dusk it's hard to see the circuits unless a significant number of the rocks are light in color. So every second or third rock I do make it quartz or some other very light stone. And in between I put a few bright red ones, it depends on what I find, but bright red ones or dark black ones, or all the many kinds of rocks that we have here. I also do think that the schist rocks, the one that are compressed mica and other things, including garnets and sometimes even sapphires, have a particular beauty. They have both color and they're very sparkly, and so I intersperse those at the switchback points when you're coming in, and I want to make it clear that you're switching back. I put an especially tall rock. I prop it up so that it stands on end, and then I put one of the schist rocks, one of the really sparkly ones, beside it, and say it's clear at that point that you turn around. You don't step over a rock and go some other way. Before I had the whole thing complete, when the rocks were not close enough together, and for somebody who'd never seen a labyrinth, when they got to a place where it was a switchback, and it wasn't clear to them what to do. Do I step over this and go that way or that? So I made the turns, the outside wall of the circuit as you turn, stacked the rocks right together so it's clear you don't step over this, and put a tall rock, a tall light colored rock with one of these sparkly schist rocks there. And I say to everyone, that's where you do a switchback. Yes, Lauren?
How did you determine that this was going to be, did you say 7 circuits? How do you determine that? Is it based on the overall space that you've allocated? Or
partly the space, and partly the classical Roman design is 7-circuit design is one that I thought I could do. I don't think that I could build something as complex as the Sharp Cathedral labyrinth. I mean, it's hard enough for me to figure out the circuits and to put the rocks in a 7-circuit. It is possible to build them smaller than that, but I wanted it to be sort of a normally acceptable size, taking about 20 minutes to walk it at a slow pace. And then I don't want to walk for 3 hours. 20 minutes is plenty. Some of the petroglyphs are, and particularly they were ancient people, so they drew them however they wished. Sometimes it was 4 circuits, sometimes it was 10 circuits, or whatever. But the Romans used 7 circuits, and theirs is a very, very kind of widely accepted classical design, and I decided to use that one. I believe Garnet has decided that's what we use here. Yes, Mike?
Is it necessary that it be a circle, or could it be shaped like a kidney? For instance, if you wanted to follow the curve of a creek, and then maybe come back around and
You can make it any shape that you want. The most common are square or round, but they don't have to be. And sometimes people build them, to fit the shape of the land that they're built on. And that's perfect.
In fact, here's a handout. Mary made a copy out of a book that we have that's
It illustrates that very point.
that they're not all circular, they're many different shapes.
Yeah.
and arrangements.
Thank you.
Boyd, is there a, in fact, then I have to see those now. The ancient petroglyph.
Well, Mary's looking at that, I'll just mention to you, when we were getting all of our paperwork together as we were coming in as board and looking at these piles of information that they collected by Rosemary and Ron over the last 30 years, one of the things we found was a lovely drawing of ideas of how this chapel might evolve over the years. And one of the pieces that Ron had drawn in, at first I thought it was one of prose renderings, but one of the pieces that Ron had drawn in was a labyrinth. And probably almost 18 years or more ago, Barbara Vitale, who was a local Native American teacher, had built a beautiful stone medicine wheel down the exact same area that drew Garnet to the spot. So I think it's kind of almost as if sometimes there's a part of your property that might be calling you to build something. I think that one's been calling us a long time. So I'm delighted that you guys have taken it on.
Yes, Mary.
In all your talk, maybe this is something that I just missed, but what is the purpose of a labyrinth? Well, with the ancient Romans, I mean, what was their purpose? Why did they walk such
In the case of the Romans, my belief is, because there are no written records of why they built them and so on, but my belief is that they were preparing for the invasion. So it was a way of walking, meditating, perhaps trying to align themselves with the gods, asking for the gods' assistance in their invasion, a safe invasion, a successful invasion, so on. I'm guessing that's what it was for, but since they built one, as soon as they landed and kind of established a camp, they built one almost right away. And that's what they were doing. I mean, they were traveling and invading and conquering, and traveling, invading, and conquering. I believe that's what they were used for at that time. Some of the early Native American labyrinths were drawn with animals and spears and arrows and bows and animals, you know, all around the outside. And my guess is they were preparing for the hunt in that case, and praying for a successful hunt and so on. The way that they've been used, the Chartres Cathedral was built in 1200, and the flooring in it was completed in 1201, and it was used by the Christian church in that case, partly as an assigned penance for, because it's very complex, so a person who would be assigned 12 Our Fathers or something as a penance could also be assigned 10 walks of the labyrinth, which is so complex it would take a couple of hours probably to walk the whole thing in and out. So in early times they were used that way. Now I think the way they're primarily used, and there's no wrong way to use them. I mean, I prefer not to think that I'm using it as a punishment for myself or anyone else. But now I think that most people walk them because they're looking for insight, they're looking for peace of mind. It's a place to be mindful. It's a place to pray, to meditate, or just be at peace. So that's within our part of the population, or here in Europe and so on. I think that's the most common use for them now. And just the appreciation of it, you know, as I already said, since I've collected the prettiest rocks that I could find, and a few people who've, you know, donated rocks for me have chosen what they find to be beautiful rocks. Part of my enjoyment is the aesthetic enjoyment of just appreciating how beautiful it is, the walk is. There's so many beautiful things to appreciate. The use in the far distant past, 6,000 years ago or something, we really don't know what the uses may have been. It's a guess. Yes?
Is there a correlation? She mentioned the medicine wheel. That
Yes, there is,
really
yeah.
recycled a lot. Is there a correlation of the
There is.
medicine wheel and that?
Yes, there is. One of the designs of the medicine wheel is a sort of a labyrinth that's walked in and out. There are different designs for medicine wheels. However, the use of a medicine wheel and the use of a labyrinth, the native peoples who used medicine wheels also looked on them in the same way that we look on labyrinths today. I couldn't build a medicine wheel, I don't know how. I could find out, but I don't know how. A labyrinth, I figured it out, and still, they're very similar. The use is very similar, and populations that use one use the other. So some of the other names for labyrinths, in other population groups, one of them is medicine wheel or whatever. Their language says something along the line of medicine walk or something. The Celts called them the never-ending circle, and the mystical Judaism, as I already said, is a part of Kabbalah, and they call it the Kabbalah wheel. So there's a lot of names and probably a lot of uses, but I think they have been used medicinally or as healing mechanisms, or probably over thousands of years.
When we were at Canuga, they have one there, and a lot of the people there refer to it as a walking meditation, because you're in a silent mode, and you're usually following the path.
Where did you say that from?
I'm sorry,
Where did you say?
that was at Canuga in the retreat in North Carolina, outside of Hendersonville. They have a beautiful one there, and but a lot of the people in talking to them about it, they referred to it as a walking meditation.
Black Rock Retreat also has a labyrinth. A lot of churches have them. Boyd and I rode up to Greenville hoping to find one that I thought I knew right where it was, and it wasn't at that church, it was somewhere else, and we never did actually get to see it. But Greenville does have several labyrinths in the general vicinity. Yes, Joyce?
Mary, some of the hospitals, when I was at MD Anderson in Orlando, the cancer center, they had a really nice labyrinth for you to walk. It was just really cool. I would go through my treatment and then I would walk the labyrinth.
That's true. In healing centers of all kinds, and in hospitals and clinics and treatment centers, they are very common as a healing walk. And in palace gardens and public gardens and so on. Yes.
I just wanted to add a church that I was involved in had one that was like a gigantic floor hall. And they would put it out during Lent, and it would be open for anyone to come in during, the day for specific days, just to use as a meditation type of focus thing, that anyone could come in and walk the labyrinth. And then after the season was over, they rolled it up and put it in storage, but it was kind of nice that they did it. And it was widely used, so kind of an interesting meditation.
Thanks for mentioning that. I'll mention to all of you that the Episcopal Church in Highlands does own a painted canvas, labyrinth 12 by 12. I'm one of the people who stays with that labyrinth when it's rolled out, and it's used 4 or 5 times a year for about a week. And they roughly try to put it out, if they can, around holiday time, Christian holidays. The rub is that same space is used for as a dining area, so it can't go out if there's some sort of an event planned there. But I'll try to let everyone know, I'll let Mimi know and have it in the newsletter, that the Episcopal Church puts it out for a week at a time, 4 or 5 times a year, and I hope some of you will come. Some years, a lot of people have come when I've been there, 20 or 30 people, a day, and then sometimes only 2 or 3 a day come. So hardly it's time of year if people don't go out, if it's really bad
This
weather.
was also without shoes.
Oh, right,
Either
yes,
it was
definitely, no
bare
shoes.
feet or socks.
Right, because they're painted on campus.
Which
And
gives you a different meditative feel too,
It
to be
does.
barefooted without any shoes.
just so everyone knows, for the one in Highlands, not bare feet because they stain the canvas, and not shoes, socks. Or they have little booties that you can put on if you don't have any socks with you, and that protects it. It's been there 4 years now, and it looks, you know, just the same as it did when it was brand new, because it's been treated very well.
One other thing that there's not a real etiquette as to how you walk it. But the interesting thing you want to do is if there is a group of people walking, it's a little different than if you're walking it by yourself and nobody's around. So there are times when I have gone to walk and there would be people there, and it would be better for me to sit and meditate for a little while until, because I walk at a different pace and you walk at a different pace. So there is an etiquette, but there isn't one. But I mean, there's no right or wrong way, but at the same time, it's not a race. You're not, I have to get through here and get going again. It's designed to be walked at a certain pace, and there again, you have to be reverent of other people involved. And if somebody's walking at a very, very slow pace, maybe you want to sit and meditate for a little while.
When and the Highlands Labyrinth is a good example of that. Since they use it at their Taizé service, with, you know, someone comes, Margaret Howell from the Lutheran Church, who plays the harp, and it's a very, very beautiful candlelight service with the harp and the labyrinth. And so many people are walking it. Let's say 20 people at a time are walking it. And it's just, you know, just be nice. You know, if you meet somebody coming the other way, or someone that's behind you, just step aside if someone wants to pass, or if you need to let somebody pass. There's no etiquette, you step this way, I step that way, or anything. It's just be nice, you know, allow other people to move on as at their pace, which may be faster or slower than yours. And you enjoy it, and they will too. Thanks so much for listening. I'm very excited we're going to build one here, and I hope you are too.
Yes.
And that's why I want to say thank you again to Mary and to Boyd also for helping with this project. There's been a lot of people that have